Hi, recently I published a video where I re-whitened the speaker grills of some NuTone model 2057 inside remote stations. The 2057s work with the 2561, 2562 systems. This is actually the customer's grill. This is a test one that we did to see how it would turn out because we hadn't done these before. It turned out very well. It has a nice, clean, bright sort of eggshell finish because that's the color it was when it was new. So one of the things that happens when you do the re-whitening is the highlighted gold lettering and the gold rim around the face of the grill, the gold washes away during the re-whitening and all you have left is the plastic color underneath. And while for some people they might think, well, that's all right, I don't think so. I think it needs to be better than that. What we're going to do is we're going to re-highlight the lettering and the edge of the grill in gold, because gold was the color of the day. That's how it was done originally. And I'm going to show you how to do this. When we're done, what we will end up with is something like this. And you can see that the highlighting makes all the difference in how the speaker grill looks. This is one that we re-whitened at the same time. This is one that actually belongs to me. I re-highlighted all of the lettering and the rim and the NuTone name up here, and I'm going to show you how to go about doing that. The other part that we have to re-whiten on the customer's speaker are the two knobs. There's two knobs, a volume knob, a selector control knob, and then there's two lever switches. The lever switch knobs don't have any highlighting on them. It's just the round knobs that do, and it's the outer rim of each knob gets highlighted in gold also. So we're going to do those while we're doing the grill. So let me get set up and I'll show you how to do this. It doesn't take many things to do this, and what we're going to do the highlighting with is this. This is a Krylon gold leafing pen. These are available in gold and silver. This is by far the best gold that I've ever found to do something like this with, and you can order these online. I think this costs like $6 or $7, and you can do a lot of speakers with it. Of course, before you start, you know, the body of it has the gold paint or whatever it is inside of it, and you have to shake it up some if it's been sitting around for a long time to make sure it's mixed up really well. And once you do that, then you're pretty much ready to go. The other thing you're going to need is a little piece of paper towel, and I'll show you what that's for when we get to that part. Time to get started. So I've got this set up. I'm zoomed in so you can see this is the volume control section and this is the input selection section, and I'll move the camera as I go along so you can see the whole thing as I go. And I'll do my very best to try to keep my big hands out of the way so you can actually see what I'm doing. So we're going to start off with our gold pen. And here's the gold pen. And the first thing you have to think about is you don't want a ton of paint on the tip of the pen. You want just some, because if you have too much paint on the tip of the pen, as you go across the tops of the letters, you can very easily get too much paint and it'll flow all over the rest of the grill and make a big mess out of it. The other thing to be aware of are some of the letters are more difficult to do than others. Anything that's like a circle, like a 0 or an O or an E, if it's a lowercase e, or a P that have little pockets like the top part of a P, you have to be careful that you don't fill in the inside part of the P with too much paint, because then it looks bad. This is one of those types of projects where you go along slowly and carefully, and if you make a mistake, if it's a small mistake like you fill in the top part of a P, just leave it. Don't try to solve it while it's still wet, because you end up getting paint all over the grill and making a bigger mess out of it. You have to have a little bit of flexibility on this. You try really hard to do a really good job, but you have to know when you cut your losses and leave it, because you're peering at this really closely and carefully while you're doing it. And what you have to think about is when this goes back up on a customer's wall, they're going to look at it really carefully when they first get it back. They're going to put it back on the wall. They're going to make sure that it works. And after that, nobody's going to look that closely. So if you've got a P that the top part of the P is filled in a little bit, nobody's going to cry about that. So what I like to do is I take the pen and I wipe it across the paper towel just a little bit, to take off some of the extra paint so it's not too much on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down here on these and work towards the top, because you have to plan your route. You don't want to do this first and then have your hand over it where you might smudge it with your fingers. So you got to think about all that kind of stuff. I'm going to try to explain as I go, but we'll see how it goes, because this is a customer's grill and it does count how it turns out, and I don't want to have to take it all off and do it again. So let's see what we can do. So I'm going to start with the word standby, and I'm going to very carefully, and the way I like to do this is you don't drag it across the word standby this way, you go bottom to top up the letters, because if you go this way, try to do it all in one swipe, what you'll end up doing is getting too much paint on everything. So and what I try to do is one letter at a time. And probably, and I've done this before, I actually have a couple other videos where I've done this. And occasionally your pen, you will use up the paint that's in the pen, so then you have to push the tip down on something, and that makes more paint flow. And I'm going to wipe it off on the paper towel again a little bit and then continue. See, that's too much paint, so I have to wipe it off. This is a little on the tricky side to do, and if you haven't ever done it before, it can be tricky. And while the other thing is, while the letters themselves are tricky, you also have to be careful of like R's, because they have a hoop on the top also. So there's that first part, turned out pretty well. But we have this line here that goes across, and then it has a little T part right there, which I've already done. Doing a long line like that can be tricky also, because you need to have a fairly steady hand, because you can't go up, 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 up. You have to go down across it. Like that. So that's a little tricky to do. That turned out pretty well. I've only got a little bit. See, sometimes you have to go back and look, like the top part of the E wasn't quite good. This top part of the O could be better. This I. There's little spots that didn't get quite enough. And what's really common is it's where you put the pen, where you begin to drag it across a letter. You have a tendency to miss the very beginning part of it. And like there, the O got filled up for a second, but then I used the corner of the tip and it sort of sucked it back out, which was pretty good. So that's not too bad. And then we'll go up here, we'll do the off. And the line, and see there, I got too much paint. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to try to fix it. And I know I said not to do this, but I am a trained professional. So what I've got here is, this is a plain old garden store variety alcohol pad, like you buy at the drugstore, or like when you go to the doctor's office, they're going to give you a shot. That's what they use. It's one of these. Alcohol is a thinner or a solvent for the paint, and it will wipe it away. So we have to let it dry for a couple minutes, because you don't want to have alcohol there and then it'll thin the paint out. Now the other thing I have to do, I have to turn this around. I'm going to do up here where it says volume, but I can't do it this way because I might bump into the edge here, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to turn it around and put it upside down like that so you can see it, and now I'm going to drag down. like that. And now we'll try the off again and the line. Like that. So there's our first section done. And now we're going to do, here it says function, and then we have this section down here. So I'm going to turn it this way so you can see, and I'm going to do it upside down. See what a swell guy I am? Alright, so we'll do it like this, and we'll do where it says function. And then here it says outside. And then we have upside down, listen and talk. Of course, normally when I'm doing this, I would not be making a video and I wouldn't be talking to anyone. So that makes it a little bit simpler. Now we'll do this. It says inside. And then we have this down here where it says special listen, listen and talk. And again, I can't really go this way, especially on this one, which is 2 rows of letters because it's too close to the edge. So I'm going to turn it back around this way and move it so you can see. And that's pretty good. And of course I'm going to try really hard to keep my hand out of the way. So I don't want to smudge the parts that I just did. Now some people may not want to go through this trouble. Maybe they like the idea that it's all one color and no highlights. But the fellow who's going to be using this, he's putting in basically a vintage system. And now you can see just with that much what a difference it makes in being able to read the markings on it, because he is putting in the system to actually use it. And you know, if you could read it and it looks original and it looks cool, then that's what you want to do. So let's go ahead and zoom out. And now what we have to do is we have to do the border edge here. And when you do the border edge, this is the part where you need more paint, because it's a fairly large flat surface and you have to do just the edge. So the paint pen has a chisel tip, and it's fairly fine, it's pretty good. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna start at one edge and we're gonna run it all the way across like that in one long continuous stroke without lifting it up if at all possible, and paying really close attention to make sure we keep it perpendicular to the edge so it deposits an even amount of paint all the way across. Now these speakers are kind of nice because they have this area right here where it slants down, so there's a place that you can put your fingers to rest them up against as you slide it down as sort of a guide, and that makes it kind of nice. Some speakers don't really have that, or it's curvy and it's hard to hold it straight, so that makes it a little bit easier. The other thing you want to do is don't start right at the very end. Start in some, because see, this one at the top is going to go this way, but when we do the side it's going to go back up. And if you start right at the edge, it might bleed over and you don't want that, and you'll catch the little bit of the part that didn't get painted on the first stroke when you come up the other side. That's sort of the basic idea. So let's see how this goes. See, like there, it got tilted a little bit, and this very fine edge on the left-hand side isn't getting enough paint. So I'll go back a little bit, and see there it slipped off. And so, again, easier to do when you're not making a video. So there's one side, and now we'll go down this way. I like to go around. That's my way of doing it. Like that. And like that. And like that. Now, the thing about when you do a large flat edge like that is you may not get 100% coverage on the first go around. And I'm going to look at it really carefully here to see how we did. Okay, it's pretty good. It's a little thin here, and there's a little spot over here where it's a little thin. This is the part where you have to have some restraint and you have to know when to stop. So for right now, it's good enough. When you do a large flat edge like this, oftentimes it comes out much better if you do 2 coats. And the second coat will make up for the thin spots. But if you're going to do 2 coats, what you have to know is you have to let this dry for at least 24 hours. If you try to rush it, if you wait an hour or 2 hours and it's not thoroughly dry, when you go to put on the second coat, it's going to drag the first coat up off the surface of the plastic, and it's going to get all clumpy and there'll be lumps in it, and then it ruins how it looks. So all of this is about patience. You can't rush something like this. You have to just go along slowly and carefully. When I'm doing this and I'm not making a video, to do all of the first coat, and the lettering only gets 1 coat. That's enough. It doesn't need more than that. When you do this, it takes me maybe 5 minutes to do the whole grill. It doesn't take that long. But then if I have to do 2 coats on the edge, then I put it aside for 24 hours. I'm a big 24-hour guy. I like to wait until things are really dry, and then I'll go around the edge one more time, let it dry, and it's done. Because it's not that much to do. It only takes a few minutes. So the last thing we have to do is we have to do the NuTone name up here on the top, which you can barely see, but we're going to fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt it up. I don't know how well you can see, but it makes it easier for me to do. And I'm going to do that. Now these are big letters, which makes it maybe a little easier. Like that. Now, the E got a little filled up. So what I'm going to do is, we'll see if we can do something with that, because that's a fairly prominent point. So I'll take a little piece of the paper towel, and it did wick out a little bit, but it's not really quite good enough. And the first one I did, the one I showed at the beginning of the video, that one actually turned out really well. So what I'll do is I'll take our alcohol pad and see if we can clean it out a little bit. And so what we'll probably end up doing here, because it makes the most sense, is instead of trying to just do 1 letter, I'll take it off the whole thing. Now, I have to let that dry for a few minutes, so while it's drying, I'll be right back. Alright, we're all dried up now, so let's try it one more time. And we'll do the whole thing one at a time. Alright. And we'll go back and see if we can get the end of the T a little better. And that's pretty good. So, now, how's that? Makes all the difference, don't you think? I'm a big believer in the details count when we send this back to the customer as our prototype sample to see if he approves of how they turned out. I'm sure he will, and then we'll go ahead and do all the other ones that he sent me, and he'll end up with a whole house full of refurbished 2570 speakers. I hope you found this interesting, and perhaps for someone it will be helpful. If it is, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, because that helps us just a little bit. There'll be a banner right here that shows you how to subscribe. Go to our YouTube homepage, click on the bell, and when you click on the bell, click on it to receive all notifications, and every time we post a new video, you'll get a notification and you can watch it. That's all for today. See you on the next video.